Ready?
Got into that last one a little bit there.
Hello, everybody. For the is this the third time? For the third time in a little over a month, we have changed sets again. This time, I think we really hit something. Really hammered it home here.
I don't know if you guys know what we're talking about again. But we're talking about the Lord of the
Harry
Rings.
Potter.
Oh.
You know, the hero's journey. It's all one and the same.
There's actually quite a couple theories out there that J.K. Rowling plagiarized Star Wars entirely.
She just seems to be a very peculiar individual anyway, so...
Yeah.
She was, came out of the theater watching Return of the Jedi and Chosen One. Doesn't know his parents!
Gets everything handed to him on a platter.
A Dark Lord!
Wants to enslave everyone.
The magic! They talk in British accents.
A special handheld item that is essential to the story.
It's like a stick.
In certain cases, some of them do have sticks.
Star Wars.
Sorry. I don't know if you guys, we had John Williams here just to do that for us. That was recorded on set.
Yeah, our intro song was actually created by John Williams, the 94-year-old man who is retired from making music for people, but got him to do it.
Really fun, weird fact that I know about John Williams. It's actually not a weird fact. Well, it is a fact. Let me start over. One cool thing I know about John Williams, we live in Utah. Anyone who doesn't know that. Abravanel Hall, they've been thinking about tearing it down for a long time to put in the new sports complex.
Uh-huh.
And John Williams actually came out and spoke out against that.
Yeah, I remember when that.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, he really does know who we are.
That's not supposed to happen. Mm-hmm.
That was close.
Whew. Crisis and threat averted, everybody.
I don't need this anymore.
Turns out that certain Sith Lords don't like it when you talk about Harry Potter on your Star Wars episode.
Yes, we worked it out. We worked it out. He's missing
aggressive negotiations.
I can't do a Grievous voice.
I mean,
I'd have to talk through like a can.
Well, it's German. It's a German accent it's like a lot put over it, and it's changed. Like, oh, the negotiator.
Anyways, what were we talking about?
We were talking about Harry Potter, I think.
Oh yeah, and John Williams.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. John Williams. You'd think talking about him would be respectful to certain Sith individuals.
Siths don't like John Williams.
They don't like anything happy and fun and good.
No. Surprised our podcast is still going on.
We were close.
We were very close.
Anyway, seeing as it is Star Wars month.
It's officially Star Wars month this time.
Well, yes. I don't know. This new orientation makes me feel like this is like a news anchor
I
thing.
know. Breaking news.
Today, back to Tristan with the Phantom Menace. We're talking about we're gonna segment the 3 episodes we'll have this month into the 3 trilogies of Star Wars. So no viewership the last week of May, huh? To begin, we're gonna talk about the High Republic era. No, we're gonna
talk about the prequels.
The prequels.
This is something that I've wanted to talk about for a minute because, I mean, I'm a fan. Yeah, as you can tell. I think it's safe to say that we're Star Wars fans.
A little more than safe.
99% positive. No. I love Star Wars. I love the story that it gives. And I am probably like this thing. George Lucas doesn't know how to write dialogue. I've said that before. But when it comes to his creative mind and the ability to tell a story, I absolutely love like what he was able to do. And ultimately, I'm just a huge fan of Anakin's storyline, right? Like, Anakin's storyline has got to be one of my favorite storylines of any character in any. And that's not just because I'm a Star Wars fan, right? It's just, as George Lucas said, it's poetic, right? It's like poetry.
It rhymes. I wish I could do a George Lucas impression, but I can't bring myself to talk that slowly. No. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. I won't even bother trying. No disrespect to you, Mr. Lucas.
The story of Anakin Skywalker. He kind of sounds high pitched like that.
Yeah, you know, it's like poetry. It rhymes. This is going to be really embarrassing to listen back to over and over again for the next week.
But I really like Anakin's storyline, so that's why I'm excited for this. Because my wife, she also grew up watching, because you guys,
yeah, I remember,
like Star Wars.
I had lightsaber battles against your wife when I was very little, in which she smote me down, but I got right back up and I was told I was killed, and I declared unto her that I was resurrected.
No,
I literally did that. I was terrible to play with when it came to Star Wars stuff.
Oh, and he's got 2 more seconds left on the clock.
You know, the old flip out stuff.
Yeah.
It was great. Playing it, like fighting against my little brother when we were little with those. Like, he would always go for the lightsaber and never for me. And there'd be times where I would just like hold still, and then he'd be like hacking at my lightsaber. I was like, this isn't how you do this. You know,
that's actually, I would say that that's better. Because I grew up having a brother who went for the kill. And I'm like, no, stop. I want to have a cool lightsaber fight. And he's like hacking at my leg. And let me tell you.
There goes your leg.
Let me tell you.
Hop on one leg.
Yeah. You got no arm. It grew back. Robot arm. No, I would say that those, I mean, I have an actual dueling lightsaber, and I would say that those extendable ones probably hurt more than that thing. Like, is there anything more painful? Like stubbing your toe, getting smacked with a plastic extendable lightsaber.
Not that I can currently think of.
I don't mean to offend anyone.
Getting kicked in the balls.
I don't want to offend anyone when I say this, because I know it might do that. So disclaimer, this is a meme I saw. One of my favorite memes of all time is during labor, a woman experiences pain so intense that she almost can know what it feels like to get hit in the hand by one of those plastic lightsabers. Obviously, I know that's not true, but that is a funny meme, because getting smacked by one of those things was some of the most intense pain that I've endured as a child. I got stitches. I would rather take the stitches and getting a cut clean than get just full blown whopped with one of those. Oh,
ouch.
Anyways, Where was I? Oh,
Anakin's story.
yeah, the prequels. So the Phantom Menace gets a lot of hate. It gets a lot of hate, and a lot of it I think is justified. Because it's a funky movie. The storyline I don't think is that bad of a. I know that people
I think
rag on that a lot.
I think the biggest problem that people had, especially back in 1999 when it was released, is that like when you're looking at it from a full Star Wars perspective, like especially obviously all they had to compare it to was the original trilogy. It's almost like too silly. There's like obviously it's still pretty serious, and there's like it still feels like Star Wars, but there's
Yeah.
like
It's arguable. It's
it's
easily
like a lot more comedy than any
especially
of the others.
especially with the 3 that we had prior,
Yeah.
right? Because
Like
no
the
serious movie.
the
Because
most amount of
nowadays, like the serious movies always have something thrown in there to break the serious tension. I I mean, I've watched a lot of movies. That was like never a thing before Marvel did it.
they've made it popular for sure.
Like, especially in older movies like pre 2000. If it's a serious movie, there's hardly ever anything like in there. I don't know. You watch Braveheart or Gladiator, there's not really a whole lot of comedy, but the
Mhm.
new Gladiator has a couple of scenes in there that are meant to be like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Right. So they did add that. And I mean, they added Jar Jar Binks, and Jar Jar Binks probably, uh, for my list, not the most hated character. Like he's a cakewalk compared to
Yeah.
my
I don't
hated character.
truthfully, I don't even mind Jar Jar all that much.
No.
I think cuz like it's a motion captured thing. It's not like all of the movement, all of the speaking, all of it is done for real. Obviously, it's just his head and the actual fluidity of the animation that's done in post. But like Ahmed Best,
Yeah.
the stand-in actor for Jar Jar, he did all of the stuff that Jar Jar was doing. So
Yeah.
like it wasn't like unrealistically floppy or whatever
No,
because he's
no.
actually doing that.
Yeah. And I think that it gets a lot. I think that a lot of the hate for the Phantom Menace comes from the fact that it was like 90% CGI versus what people had watched up to that point.
Yeah,
Weren't.
I think what people don't fully understand now is like the colossal innovation and breakthroughs that had happened only years prior by the team that made the Star Wars prequels. Obviously, all of them now at this point, but like the very first time any actual computer generated images was used the way that we know it now was with Jurassic Park,
Mm-hmm.
which came out 6 years prior
Mm-hmm.
to Phantom Menace. It
Mhm.
was Industrial Light and Magic,
Mm-hmm.
George Lucas's
One-
CGI baby
Right.
company.
And I don't know if you've ever seen the original Jurassic Park, like before,
Yeah,
like
remastering
the
and stuff.
remastering and stuff. Like it's not great.
Yeah, by our standards,
It
but, like-
looks good for the time, but it's not. It's like if you've ever seen Jabba the Hutt too before it got remastered.
Yeah, there's all like slow, doesn't move super fluid, but like yes, that is still a terrifying thing to look at.
Yeah.
Like incredible what they were
Yeah.
able to pull off, and
Well, and animatronics too,
yeah, and
right?
George Lucas has always been one to just like push the limits of what
yeah.
technology can accomplish.
Yeah.
And
Well, and he's
hence why
always been like a practical effect guy too, like
Mhm.
touching up practical effect.
yeah.
So I think that that's why it got a lot of hate. I think that's always the thing that people tell me is that like there's nothing real in it,
Yeah.
right?
And like it's like I think I was saying this to some family members earlier this week that like I would love if there was in the future like another remastery of the prequels, but it's like a complete CGI overhaul. They redo all of the shots because I'm sure that Lucasfilm has an archive of all the raw footage, all
Yeah.
of the blue screen stuff
Yeah.
that you can just replace it in
Yeah.
again because I think for me one of the things that like the CGI kind of can take me out of it a lot is just the green screen outlines. It's very obvious
Yeah.
that they're walking on
Yeah.
nothing or like the background is
There's
not
nothing
real or
behind
whatever.
them. Yeah.
It's always like it's just floating body
especially
background
so in the
thing.
Phantom Menace. Like it gets a little better as the movies go on, and that's
Yeah.
just because technology gets better. But in the Phantom Menace, like it's so blatantly
Yeah.
obvious.
And so I would love if that got.
There's a brutal rainstorm going on out there.
It just started raining. It was like sunshine and rainbows not 10 minutes ago. It's because we're talking about something
So big.
emotional.
But back to what we were actually talking about. Anakin's story. Right? It starts out, everyone knows how the movie starts out, so I'm not going to go play by play. It starts out, with this kid who is what did we call him?
We can say slave. Lego can't say slave.
That's true. He starts out as a slave kid, so he comes from nothing, right?
Literally.
Yeah.
There was no father.
No, he comes from nothing. And he comes from a planet.
Immaculate conception.
He comes
everybody.
from a planet that is also nothing. I would know. I grew up there.
Tatooine, everybody.
Delta, Utah, good stand-in replacement for
Tunisia.
yeah. We have sand dunes like 20 miles ahead north of us. I
Wait, what were you
rode the
saying?
Banthas. No, and like the whole purpose, like the whole point of I'm a nerd out. The whole point, like, of the Jedi Order
Want to put a helmet on?
won't fit. The whole point of the Jedi Order is that, like, to give a little science behind it, right? They're pacifists, right? So they believe it. Then they fight the Sith, who are, I don't know what the opposite of a pacifist is. Basically, the Jedi believe that their power comes through being peaceful and, like,
Being one with the living force. Right?
yeah, and being understanding and not taking risks, like not pushing themselves past the limits, but becoming powerful within the limits, right? Versus the Sith, they their whole belief is that power comes
From your emotion.
from your emotion, right?
Mhm.
The more emotional you are, the more and like emotionally charged you are, the more powerful you become, which arguably is
Yeah.
is a pretty true concept, right?
It's like
If you've
it's
ever
like
fought against anyone who's pissed off versus who's just fighting for fun,
Yeah, it's like it's kind of it's just a difference between like the strength of the emotion, why they're always like be hateful, be angry, be like imbue fear and stuff, because those are the strongest emotions that one can feel. So the stronger the emotion, the stronger the response.
Right.
Thereby, the stronger the force.
Right.
But like you're tapping into negative. It's just
Right.
it's the
It's-
classic light, dark, positive, negative.
Yeah. Right. So and the what the Jedi do is that they prohibit like any form of attachment, right? Because with attachments to anything, if once you grow attached to something, the fear of losing that thing or harming or anything happening to that said attachment, like you run the risk of letting your emotions get the best of you. Right. So in Anakin's storyline, like what George Lucas does is really awesome because he takes a kid, right? He writes about a kid who comes from nothing, and the only thing that he has is his mom, right? Which arguably, you already, like, even if you don't come from nothing, the relationship that you have with your mom is always a special relationship, right?
That's why the Jedi are always taken when they're in
Little,
their,
like infancy. Yeah. Right. So that they don't have any attachment to form.
They like can't remember
Right.
their parentage.
Right. And so that is what starts Anakin's story down this path of like
Attachment.
yeah. And I also think that it's really cool that like speaking on a character basis of Anakin, it's cool like it's awesome to watch how other like factors placed on him make the man that he becomes, right? Because he's told right from the get-go as an 8-year-old kid, right? you're the specialist person to ever exist, right? Immaculate conception.
Your blood is crazy, dude.
Yeah. Right? And he's good at everything. He does everything right because he's Star Wars Jesus, basically.
He's one. He's like, he doesn't need to try to be one with the Force because
he is
the
Force. Right? So it sets up this story. I mean, people up to that point had already watched how the story ends. So it sets up like how he gets from a small innocent child who just wants to race to genocidal murderer.
Yeah. Because, I mean, like they mentioned, obviously, like once all of the events of Tatooine take place and they take Anakin back to Coruscant to be trained and they present him from the council, like Mace Windu tells Qui-Gon that he's too old. Can't train him. He's too old because they kind of know that he has that attachment. And like they sense that he misses his mom.
Yeah.
And they know why the
Yeah.
Jedi forbid all that.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, it's like the one thing the Jedi Council were kind of right about in all the prequels.
Yeah.
Was that he's too old.
Right. And I think it's just cool how that like movie. I mean, that's about all I have to say about the movie. Like it's not my favorite.
Oh no.
It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite.
Risa dying here.
That's pretty good.
Risa having no power. What did he say?
That's pretty good.
I'm not to do that one for a while.
Yeah,
Just can't do George Lucas.
That's good. I feel like I was there.
Big booba fish. I can't do the oh no, which is like the one thing that everyone can recognize, but it's
or he's like,
oh no! It starts screeching.
Yeah. You could if you could yell, but
I'm not Ahmed Best.
Yeah. It's not my favorite movie though. Like it's a good starting point. Where I really shine with my knowledge and all that stuff is like right before it, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. I know a decent amount, but most of them. But I wanted, I guess, to like segue into the next one. Like the one thing that like stands out for me with all of the prequels, like obviously all of the Star Wars movies have like revolutionized this, but like the prequels is when like George Lucas, like we were saying, was just trying everything. He was doing so much, and he was just trying. Like, I guess I want to talk a little bit just about like the sound design. Like starting with Phantom Menace, you can tell that a lot was put into making it better, to making it more unique. A lot of things, like just starting with how all of the lightsabers sound even more unique to one another, and like the droidicas rolling in them getting established and the shields coming up, like the different sounds that different kinds of blasters make. Yeah, all of that, like Sebulba's pod racer. Oh, baby. So good.
Yeah. No, and that's something that I would agree. The sound, like,
it keeps you. Honestly, it keeps me watching.
Yeah, it's a far. They step more into like the it immerses you more. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how I would say that.
It becomes like the science fiction part of it becomes less fictitious.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like something that you maybe have heard.
Yeah.
You know, other than the things that are cover your ears. Not real. But yeah, I don't have much else to say about Phantom Menace that hasn't been said so many times by so many other Star Wars fans about why the song is called Duel of the Fates, and Qui-Gon like could have saved Anakin from his path going down if he hadn't died, yada yada yada, and like Darth Maul. What a freaking cool dude.
Did you know, real quick, I did not know this.
Did you know that?
Did you know that George Lucas's original plan for the sequel trilogy was that Maul was going to be the bad guy.
I think I had heard that.
Maul was supposed to be the bad
With
guy.
Darth Talon, right?
Yeah,
His apprentice.
yeah, and they were going to be running like the crime syndicate, and it was basically like the mafia, like Star Wars.
Now you know.
Which I think is what they're actually going to be. That's why a lot of people
The
are
new
very
Maul
excited
Shadow
for the
Lord, right?
Yeah, for the Maul
Yeah.
show, because that like Dave Filoni is working on that, and Dave Filoni, as we've talked before, is basically like holds the rights and keys to Lucasfilm. He's like George Lucas 2.0 now,
Yeah.
right? And they're a lot of people are really excited, me included, because they're going to explore. It's going to be obviously a little different because it's in show format, but it'll be really cool to see them explore what the
it
sequel
being
trilogy.
in animated form, I think it would potentially make it better
Yeah.
because you're able to have more content that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how long the season's going to be,
Right.
but like I'm going to assume 30, 45-minute episodes, at least 8 episodes. That's longer than the film could be,
Right.
or films could be. Like
Right.
you can make
Right.
more happen.
Yeah. And as I've said before, I'm a sucker for the Clone Wars animation. I will consume any product that is put out in that. But anyways, that was a sidetrack. We're back on the normal track. Attack of the Clones.
It's already raining outside. It's perfect.
Camino. I've just landed here on Camino.
I've successfully made contact with the Prime Minister of Camino. They've said to be creating a clone army. Did the council? I quote that whenever I'm outside and it's raining.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll call a friend.
It's verbatim.
Yeah.
3 a.m. Trevor, what are you calling me for?
I've successfully made contact.
Dude, what? Camino? What's Camino?
Jedi Council does not sanction the creation of such an army. It's to my understanding he was killed before that. Anyway, definitely one of the most memed.
Yeah.
Obviously, the prequels,
All
like,
of them are just a gold mine.
Meme culture
I would say
grew up with the prequels. So
yeah.
and it's honestly probably a founding stone in
The creation of
how
memes.
have gone.
Yeah. I would.
Impossible. The archives must be incomplete.
It should be right here. Last Master Kenobi is.
Master? It was erased from the archive memory. Very good.
Yoda looks at him. Yoda's like, prick you are. Prideful you have become.
I think, like, a lot, at least like from my growing up, I think that Attack of the Clones has been just all time my most watched Star Wars movie.
I loved Attack of the Clones.
Like I was watching it again today.
Yeah, it's a good
Happy
movie.
May the 4th, everybody. But like, obviously, there's right. If we're talking about it in Anakin's storyline, I think this one honestly almost feels like it's too overlooked simply because of the complaints people have had for it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people for a long time, this was the worst Star Wars movie.
Yeah, which is mind blowing to me.
Yeah, I don't think it deserves top spots,
No,
but I don't think it deserves bottom ones.
no.
But like most of the complaints that people had, especially back in 2002 and even some today, is just like a combination of George Lucas's lackluster dialogue and Hayden Christensen's like sloppy acting,
Mm-hmm.
which to those of us who grew up on the prequel movies and are now prequel apologists, no way.
No, absolutely.
Like,
There's
Hayden Christensen was 19 years old when
Yes.
they made this. Which,
arguably some of his very first movies ever in an acting career.
and honestly, it was perfect for what they wanted Anakin
Well,
to be.
and something that I feel like people often overlook too in that sense is Hayden Christensen isn't a bad actor. I've seen some other movies
Yeah,
that
me
he's
too.
been in, and they're not bad,
Yeah.
right? It's just the character, right? And again, going back, this kid has never had anything, right? He's never had to interact with other humans. I mean, he has, but you know what I'm trying to
I
say,
get it,
right?
yeah.
Like, he's never felt love. He's never felt any kind of feeling outside of his mother and being a slave, right?
Yeah, all he knows is honestly extreme emotions.
Right.
Like the reason why the council thought he was too old, and because he had a connection to his mother, because in a way, he knows what love feels like what it feels like to have someone else
and that's like their biggest thing.
love you
That's
more
like
than themselves.
the anti-love. It's like stressed in every single
I mean, he even says
iteration of the movies.
in a conversation he has with Padme, that weird diner that was clearly supposed to be a callback to Return of the Jedi for some reason, because
Mhm.
R2, he just wishes he was a waiter. But no, Naboo had to be attacked by the Trade Federation.
Oh no. So
Could have been
sad.
his dreams. Sorry, buddy.
But what were you saying?
They Padme asks him about attachment or whatever, and
Oh yeah, and he's like
attachment is
forbidden,
forbidden.
right? But it's what am I trying to say here? It's just really well written, like to look back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on the prequels. I've never had these complaints. I've never had the complaints ever that I've ever these people that complain about these movies. I've never ever had those. I've always just enjoyed them for what they were. And I think that was probably because I was a kid and I was trying to find something to attack, because every kid does that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Today's kids, it's like Minecraft and Fortnite, right? But every kid finds that one thing that they're attached to, right?
Yeah.
And Star Wars was my thing. So naturally, I'm not going to, as a 5-year-old kid, I'm not going to be like, does he really mean
Mommy, I don't think Anakin, I don't think he taught good.
So these things just have never bothered me. And so to look back and to see like the progression of this storyline, right? Like, what would you do if you were in that situation, right?
Yeah, they cast a 19-year-old to play a horny teenager.
Who better?
So, casting director for Attack of the Clones, you did okay.
Yeah. And I thought the CGI was cool. Like, I mean, clearly
For 2002, I mean, like,
it introduced.
you have to think, like the top CGI movies, the best effects of that year was Attack of the Clones, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
And which one of the two of those
Have Christopher Lee in it. So,
and I don't know if like they introduce that one. Attack of the Clones introduces one of my favorite characters ever in all of cinema.
wait, let me guess. Dex, the diner guy.
Yeah. Hey,
Obi-Wan, my old buddy.
oh,
That's like my one. That's like my one big complaint about the movie is like, why does this diner guy who we never heard of, who's for some like Obi-Wan's best friend, never see him again? Why does he know the origins of this poison dart for a planet that's been wiped from the Jedi archives? How does he know where it's from?
plot. It's like not plot armor.
I'm actually a clone, Obi-Wan.
It was the first batch. No, clones, right?
Yeah.
The clones are, and obviously the clones were viewed as something by me as a kid before Clone Wars came out as those are really cool, right? They've got colors, they've got cool helmets.
Yeah, the design of the armor, like they look sick.
Yeah, right.
Cool,
And
armor designs always got you as a kid. We talked
young-
about this with Tron.
As a young boy, like for me at least, what cooler, right? I would pick up sticks as a child and pretend they were guns. So, like, what better than the clones as a kid to attach to?
I guess to just briefly still talk about the CGI just a little bit. I think something like that still now, even though like they've slightly remastered them, but even back in 2002, it still looks so good. Not a single, for those of you at home that didn't know this, I'm going to blow your mind. In Attack of the Clones and in Revenge of the Sith, really,
Revenge of
there's
the
not
Sith,
a
too.
single clone who is real.
No.
Not one of them.
which
They're
brings
all
me-
full CGI individuals.
Which also is one of my coolest, like,
if
fixes.
you thought that George Lucas got a billion extras to dress up like this at the end of the movie, I hate to break it to
when
you.
it's one of my coolest fixes ever, and well, I can talk about that later, but like how they had to then, because all of those clones were 100% CGI, when they Disney bought them, and just recently we've seen live action clones, they've had to rework everything, right? I guess I will talk about it. It's like my favorite fact. The clones are 100% CGI. Say, okay, so let me nerd out. You're not going to understand any of this, but it's the best way I can describe it, okay? So when you look at a human, right, everything is proportionate to them because what you're seeing is the bodily figure of said person, right? So when I look at Trevor, right, Trevor's head and arms and legs all like fit him because, well, right? But when Trevor puts on clothes, it adds mass, right? So the original clones, they were CGI'd in a way where their bodily form, so like us if we were butt naked, their bodily form and figure was the armor and the helmets, right? So then when Disney had to make live action clones, they ran into the problem, and then like obviously when they sold merch and stuff, they ran into the problem, well, these helmets are too small. They don't fit on any human's head, right? And how they fixed that, what they had to do is they had to upsize everything. And that's why like when you see live action clones and like when you put on the helmets, they're massive. I don't know if you remember watching the last clip that we made. The helmets look humongous on our heads, right? That's like my favorite thing ever. And that's like when you see them, like the clones look humongous. They look like units of dudes.
And honestly, I don't think this gets applauded enough, but the idea, like when George Lucas was having to decide what like the perfect specimen for an entire clone army would be, him deciding that a Polynesian was the perfect specimen, he could not have nailed it more on the head. If anyone has ever met any Polynesian ever,
they're like superhumans.
Yeah.
In like every factor.
So it's just,
I've played against Polynesians in football.
Me too.
And this is a compliment. I've never been more scared for my life. You want me to go tackle
they're
that?
the nicest people. Like, I'm pretty sure the term gentle giant really originated with the Polynesian man. Forget
awesome
whales.
People. Awesome people.
Yeah, they're so nice, but man, am I afraid.
And yeah.
If only droids could understand
what
cultures,
exactly they were going
then
against.
the Clone Wars would have been over before it began.
Yeah.
They cloned what?
Roger.
Uh-oh.
That's pretty good. But I loved Attack of the Clones. Obviously the storyline in there is really interesting because you get to see like the beginning of what the grand plan is for the universe and how it transitions and ties in with the original trilogy.
Yeah.
But I will say my final note on this, Obi-Wan, dumber than a sack of rocks.
Yeah. I mean, like, they kind of begin to show how in Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan as a Padawan kind of butted heads with Qui-Gon on a lot of things. Qui-Gon was very much a follow the living force kind of person.
And Obi-Wan's a traditionalist.
Yes.
Like through and through.
Yeah. Follow what the council says, follow the rules, and you'll be okay.
Spirit of the law versus letter of the law.
Yeah. And so that's why, like, a lot of people are like, if Qui-Gon was Anakin's master, then Darth Vader would have never happened, kind of a thing, because he would have been able to help him in that way. But yeah, Obi-Wan is just quiet. Like, Count Dooku's like, what if I told you the Republic is currently being controlled by a
Sith
Dark Lord of the Sith? Impossible. Cut to 3 years later.
I know you're lying, Dooku.
I'll never join you. And I'm sorry, my friend. Yeah, whatever.
I will say, sorry, I know I said that was the last thing. My favorite thing about Attack of the Clones is watching Yoda fight.
Oh, yeah.
Me and my dad, like when my dad would play lightsabers with us, my dad would be like, I'm like Yoda. Just going crazy.
Here's a fun fact for you. Ahmed Best, the guy who played Jar Jar Binks, obviously he's in Attack of the Clones still, but he actually got, because, you know, his whole thing was virtual character and everything, he got to know the animation supervisor for the film really closely. They worked together all the time, and the animation supervisor confided in him because they had decided they were going to animate Yoda, because in the original cut of Phantom Menace, he was still a puppet. But they decided they were going to animate him for this one. And so they knew they wanted a fight scene with Yoda and Dooku, but like he was terrified because in all Star Wars movies leading up to this, Yoda had never really moved.
Mm-hmm.
He'd only slowly lumbered around.
Mm-hmm.
So he was terrified as to what to do. And Ahmed Best took him back to his place and showed him anime sword fights. And that inspired him on how Yoda should move.
Really? I did not know that.
So the Yoda Dooku fight is literally an anime fight.
And let me tell you, it's good.
Yeah.
It's really
and
good.
like they had the idea because, you know, Star Wars is basically a spaghetti western, but in space. And the idea of him like a cowboy throwing his cloak back to reveal his gun, his lightsaber, but then the idea of him using the Force to bring it over to him. Oh my gosh, it still gives me chills to watch him do that. And the music leading up to it, right as oh man.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like the fight that inspired me the most as a kid in that movie is Obi-Wan and Jango Fett.
Yeah.
Like, I think I could probably like recreate with sound effects alone that fight out of my head. I will not try to do that, but
blast him.
There is fire. And like probably the most influential scene for any child of any movie ever, honestly, like of our generation, Obi-Wan opening a door.
Yeah.
Everyone does that at the grocery store. Yeah. You at home do that at the grocery store. Yeah. I will still do that at the grocery store.
And it's kind of cool to see, like, once you know, like, that's also them paying homage to Alec Guinness when he's like, these are not the droids you're looking for.
It's just the way he does it.
Same
like,
thing.
Just opening a door like that.
But then we get to my number one favorite movie of all time. And in my mind,
it's a comfort
peak cinema. I recently got the experience or got the opportunity of a lifetime, of my lifetime, to see Revenge of the Sith re-released in theaters. And when I tell you not to bring the condemnation of God up on me, it was a spiritual experience. It touched my soul. It was amazing. Like,
it kind of like
something that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, right? I got to do this as well. I didn't get to do it with you, but at a later date I also got to do it. But like it kind of transcends nostalgia. Like the feelings that at least I had while watching it, because I thought that I kind of understood not just the story of Revenge of the Sith, but like Anakin entirely, like way more being able to watch this in theaters. Because like obviously I couldn't when it first was released. I couldn't go see it.
I was 5.
Yeah, and like only being able, like, my only experience was DVD, watching it at home.
No surround sound. And that's
Like-
something that I wanted to say real quick, like adding to why I think it was so special for me in the theater. Because the sound, right? Like when you watch it as a kid, at least with me, I watched on a television, and back then there was no sound bars and like stereo system, like, you know, like 3D sound
that
was like
stupid expensive.
stupid expensive, and it
And, like,
required so much work
big
because everything
ordeal.
had to be wired to the house, right?
Mhm.
Never got that. So I just watched on the TV speakers. But being able to, I don't know why, but hearing the sounds like Obi-Wan speaking from the left, right? Like, for me, that added weight to it.
Yeah. It really, like, it felt like I was watching this movie with my heart the whole
Mhm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, to talk more about the actual movie and not just the experience of watching it in the theater, like, I think like, again, because this movie also still got hate for
Mm-hmm.
dialogue and all of
Mhm.
that. And, like, there are some things that I think, like, if you were just to simply rewrite the dialogue a little bit, it would
Mm-hmm.
be better.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, honestly, the emotion of every moment,
Well,
like,
and
you can almost feel Anakin's internal torment.
well, yeah,
You can feel like, yeah,
you
he is being lied
It's
to.
understandable.
He
yeah.
is being mistrusted.
Yeah.
Like, Palpatine is giving him an offer he can't really refuse.
Right.
Because obviously this is still just a theory. I don't know if this has been confirmed or anything, but, like, the visions of his mother dying, the theory of Palpatine is the one who gave him those to, you know, build character,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, him doing the same thing but for Padme, so Anakin would go to him,
Right.
and then eventually
Right.
doing all of that.
Well, and I feel like, because I've obviously watched the movie recently outside of the theaters. I guess not recently, but as an adult,
Mhm.
I've watched the movie, and it didn't hit that hard. But I feel like because I went into this movie and I was just so excited to see it in theaters, I picked up on a lot of stuff with my adult mind that I never noticed as a kid, right? Like, the dialogue is really cheesy, right? And there's the famous line, right, that everyone makes fun of, where "you're so beautiful," and Padme turns around and she's like, "I'm only so beautiful because I'm so in love." And then usually it ends after Anakin, like, in people's talks, it ends after Anakin's like, "No, I'm so in love with you," right? But people, I recently, like, was reading up on this, and, like, people make fun of that, but what they fail to realize is that, like, they notice that because it sounds stupid, right? But it's a very important thing to the story, what happens right after that, right? Where Padme says, "Oh, so love has blinded you?" And Anakin's, like, kind of caught in deer in the headlights, right? Because he's like, I don't know. I'd like to think that Anakin gets a little bit of, like, an out of body experience where he realizes,
Maybe.
yeah, right? Because, again, Tristan's back on the Anakin storyline, right? Anakin's come from nothing, and the only attachments he's ever had is his mom, and now Padme, and he, like, loves Padme.
And she's pregnant now.
Yeah, and if I can be honest, I will go ahead and be, like, side with Anakin as a man who is now married and a father. I would go through the Anakin storyline too. Had I had visions that my wife and kids were to die, I would.
And having had the experience of having visions that came true,
right,
right?
right.
I won't lose you.
I understand. I think that that's also something that I realized in the theater, is I was like, as a kid, I was
Like,
like,
he's justified.
as a kid, I was like, no, don't turn. It's dumb. It's not real. But as a dad and a husband now, I'm like, yeah. If Tristan grew up, right, and all I ever knew was this cultish order, right, that raised me, right? If they told me that I can't be with, like, if I found someone that I loved and I had a kid with them, and they told me, one, I couldn't be with my wife and I couldn't have a kid, right? But two, they never once trusted me to do anything. And, if I may add, that the Clone Wars shows where the Jedi Order manipulates Anakin just as much as they manipulate Anakin and use him as much as Palpatine does.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a lot of times, this is something I was telling Grace, there's a lot of times in the Clone Wars, why I love it so much is because it shows that from Anakin's point of view, the Jedi are evil, right? Because Anakin is always sent to do the dirty work for the Jedi Order, always, right?
Which is why like a scene that was hated at the time is so much more justified now of him not being granted the rank of master. Like I understand a little bit why they wouldn't still, because he was being put on the council by Palpatine, not by the council.
Yeah.
Which is why like as to still like try and spy on Palpatine, allowing him to be on the council, but out of their own personal spite of Palpatine, not granting him master. But like with the knowledge that Clone Wars gives us,
Anakin fully deserves it.
yeah, I would flip out too. Like having been mission after mission, time and after time of saving masters on the council again and again, and proving that he is more than capable of being a Jedi master and honestly acting like one anyway. Why wouldn't he be?
Right. Well, and if I can talk about, because I feel like Clone Wars is so essential, and I know that we're short on time, so I'll be really brief. But like the Clone Wars sets up this character named Ahsoka. Ahsoka is easily like Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Padme. That is Anakin's family, right? The story of Anakin is very poetic. And there's more to these characters that I will dive in our other episodes, because it's just you have to.
Yeah.
But right, Ahsoka does everything that Anakin does, right? She is, as is mentioned in Ahsoka, her legacy is Anakin's legacy. And Anakin's legacy, everything that he's ever known and ever passed on is through her, right? Ahsoka gets framed for plots against the Jedi and the Republic, and then she gets basically, I want to say excommunicated. She gets kicked out.
Yeah.
Of the Jedi Order, and then the Anakin is the only one that's like, no, hold on, wait a minute.
She wouldn't do that.
We've done all of these things for you, right? Me and her, we've done all of these things for you, and now you don't trust me and you don't trust her, right? So I'm gonna prove that you're wrong. He proves that wrong, and then they because they have to. The Jedi Order's like, oh, we'll welcome you back because we technically were wrong, right? Which they never ever do. But Ahsoka,
they don't ever really apologize.
No, they never apologize. They just say, you're welcome back, right? You're welcome back. And Ahsoka doesn't come back. And so then when you get to Revenge of the Sith, right? Like Anakin just brought Ahsoka back and he had to send her away again, right? His best friend has left the Order because she doesn't believe in it anymore. And his other best friend is so, he's so blind and so committed that he refuses to see anything else that may be wrong, right? And even when Anakin's like, I'm supposed to spy on the Chancellor, Obi-Wan's like,
this is the council asking you.
I'm not doing it. They're doing it. And I'm not going to. I was against it.
I'm just the messenger.
Yeah.
But I also am on the council, and I probably agreed to let you do this.
Me not. When he's like, I didn't want it. Right? Well, you not sticking up enough shows to Anakin you don't trust him either, right? So when Anakin gets to the point where he does what he does, like you said, you think about it, Palpatine, it's smart.
Yeah, emotionally,
Palpatine is
Anakin
the perfect solution.
Completely justified.
Absolutely. Well, and Palpatine knows.
Just certain actions.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I saw him.
Murder's never correct.
Killing younglings. Anakin, Obi-Wan's I saw you killing younglings.
You know that fact, right? That Ewan McGregor had to cover his mouth because he kept laughing whenever he said that line. They had to do several takes.
And that's
killing younglings.
Oh, it's because it is stupid.
Your boyfriend? He killed kids.
But he does.
Yeah.
But now,
And like, I guess we're kind of on this track of like kind of ripping on Obi-Wan a little bit. And like the last thing I want to say is like him sneaking on to Padme's ship. Obviously, he was doing what he had to do. He knew he had to confront Anakin because like he wanted to confront Palpatine. Yoda and Obi-Wan have that conversation. And Yoda just tells him like, weak you are. Stupid.
lessen the gains.
And so he sneaks onto the ship, but like the way he presents himself when they land on Mustafar, like kind of pose, but like Anakin having that argument that like Obi-Wan is turning her, and then all of a sudden he sees that he's there, that he came with her.
One,
his
it would make sense why he's mad at her too, right? Because he's like, Obi-Wan doesn't, he's telling her right there, Obi-Wan doesn't trust me. He doesn't trust us. He won't understand. And she's like, no, he will, right? Anakin there is like, okay, well, she's clearly being manipulated by Obi-Wan, right? And she's trying to get me to side with him.
There he is.
Now he's power posing on my wife's ship. Let her go, Anakin.
You turned her against me. You will not take her from that.
You have done that yourself.
And then the speech won't do it right here.
One thing I do want to say, seeing this movie in theaters, it was really unique. My wife has autism, so she's very sensitive to sounds, so she didn't hear it. She puts earbuds in when there's things that are loud, movies. I could hear it because I didn't have earbuds in. During the speech, you could hear audibly every single person in the theater.
Yeah, same with
I have brought peace. Right?
I heard people going, do it.
Yeah. Like anytime that was such an awesome experience for me because I was doing it. I have brought peace,
freedom,
and security.
And security to my new empire.
Your new empire.
Don't make me kill you.
I love that. That was so cool to me to see this fandom completely 180, right?
Yeah.
And it's been this trilogy, the prequel trilogy has been the most hated movies forever until the sequels, thank goodness. But to see the fandom 180 and be like, these are actually very good movies, and with the now additional information we have, it fills those gaps that the movies don't cover. There's so much more that I can talk about, but I can't. But if any of you out there who are listening want to know, feel free to hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, leave comments in the Spotify.
Yeah.
Because I can go on and on about like the cool like points of the storyline. He's back!
Well, everyone, that pretty much...
We're going to die now.
The last thing I want to say, I don't really care that the light turned off. Something that like really hit me hard watching it in the theater was when Padme is dying, while Obi-Wan is holding Luke right next to her. Her very last words are that there's still good in him. There's good in him. I know it.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing Luke does to try and like save his father before having to confront him is say those exact things.
Yeah, say the words that Padme never got to tell Anakin.
Yeah. Luke is Padme personified.
Yeah.
As his own son.
Yeah. And everyone always draws a comparison that Padme is Leia. No. Like Luke stands for everything that Padme was. And I think that is so pretty, and that is what I will leave it on, and I will talk about in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in. We've got to fight a Sith Lord. We're probably going to die. If you're listening on the audio, this is probably really confusing to you.
our light turned off, and now it's just red in here. Lost. We reveal ourselves.